How did we become so divided?
Believe me. Believe me.
There are stark differences between where I think our country needs to be headed and where he would turn us back.
How did our country split in two?
I've been dealing with the press a long time. I think the political press is among the most dishonest people that I've ever met.
Well, people should and do trust me.
The fake news is creating violence.
Believe me. Believe me.
Trust me.
Over here. If the media would write correctly and write accurately and write fairly, you'd have a lot less violence in the country.
How do we know what to believe?
Meanwhile, back home, people are waking up to the routine violence of left-wing activists at protests.
The right and the left. The United States is primarily broken up between two parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. Republican ideals embody tradition and idealize the old way of doing things. Democrats have branded themselves as progressive and forward-thinking. Over the past 2 decades, a number of factors have contributed to Republicans and Democrats being pushed further towards their end of the spectrum. Conservatives see liberals as a hostile takeover of American values, while some liberals paint conservatives as ignorant racists. With this refusal to reach across the aisle, misunderstandings, miscommunications, and misinformation run rampant. Journalism, which was once one of our most reliable and unbiased forms of media, has now become a polarized hotbed for partisanship. Broadcast reporters and journalists spin headlines, sometimes unconsciously, speaking volumes simply with their choice of 1 or 2 words. This personal influence only deepens the political divide, as both sides now feel that the opposing party's news outlet of choice is spreading lies, deceit, and false information, deepening the distrust between the two groups. This influence also causes another, more profound issue: an emphasis on political theatrics and a detachment from fact. News has transformed into a combat zone, leaving everyday citizens trying to find reliable news sources in its wake. Cable news giants create a specific narrative and rely on it for every piece of news they cover. Rather than represent facts, data is manipulated and broadcasted through calculated opinion pieces. With new White House administration positions like fixer and media strategist, people like Kellyanne Conway have risen to notoriety for spinning the truth and providing alternative versions as a way to explain the president's sometimes inhumane or unbelievable behavior. Long interviews with Conway are called spin marathons because of how persistently and blatantly she alters one narrative to fit her own. After a political narrative has planted itself, it is near impossible to change. Once a person believes something to be true, they will seek out information that reaffirms what they already know, or think they know. This is why people who start out believing that Donald Trump is a bad president will continue to watch CNN rather than Fox News, and will never make the switch to the opposite network, or vice versa. This phenomenon is known as confirmation bias. These people, so entrenched in their own narratives, become angry when anything or anyone threatens to oppose their predetermined set of beliefs. As people watch more and more of their favorite news network, they gradually lose their individual thoughts. People can form to groups, and over time begin to blindly align their beliefs with whatever the group tells them. There are devastating downsides to the polarization of American politics. Politics are becoming more violent and divisive, especially after Donald Trump's victory. Protests have turned dangerous, leading in extreme cases to the loss of lives. People are relocating geographically to live in clusters where others share similar political orientation. The country is, overall, more belligerent and less communicative than it was 4 years ago, and the media is in the battleground for the war between the parties. How can we find information that we trust? What is the correct worldview? To decipher reality, it is important that we do not subscribe to one source of information. Millions of Americans are steadfast in their beliefs and are not willing to see the other versions of reality. Political goals will alter information in order to lock down support from certain groups of people, and cable news serves to propagate this confirmation bias. If we want to discover the truth, we must first examine who is telling us.